How do you get a kid to actually listen without yelling, threatening, or bribing them with a screen time? Because if you are anything like most parents, you have tried all three and none of it works long term. There is a book that lays out exactly what to do instead, and once you hear it, you're going to realize why nothing you tried before was ever going to work. This is based on the book How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adel Favor and Elaine Muslish. This book is packed with real conversations between real parents and real kids, showing you word for word what to say and what to avoid. I went through the whole thing and pulled out the 10 most useful things from it. Some of these are going to seem too simple to actually work, but stick with me because by the end, you're going to understand exactly why they work so well. Here is the real problem most parents run into. We were raised a certain way, and without even noticing, we repeat the exact same patterns with our own kids. We deny their feelings, we give commands instead of information, we punish instead of solving the actual problem, and every single one of these things feel normal because that's how most of us grew up. But the book proves over and over with real stories that these normal habits are actually the reason kids stop listening, start arguing, or shut down completely. So let's break down all 10 things you need to change. Number 1. Stop denying your kids' feelings. There is a story in the book about a mom whose mornings were a disaster. Her kid says, I am tired. She says, you can't be tired, you just napped. The kid says it again, louder. She argues back again. Now the kid is crying. Same thing happens later with it's hot in here. She insists it's cold. The kid insists it's hot. And it turns into a full blown fight. Eventually, she realized something. Every single time her kid told her how they felt, she told them they were wrong. She wasn't trying to be mean. She genuinely thought she was being logical and helpful. But what she was actually doing without realizing it was teaching her kids not to trust their own feelings. The second she started saying things back like, you're still feeling tired even though you just napped, the fighting completely stopped. So, step 1, and this is the foundation everything else builds on. When your kid tells you how they feel, don't argue with it or correct it, just repeat it back to them. Number 2. Listen with your full attention. This sounds obvious, but almost nobody actually does it. Imagine you had a terrible day at work. Your boss embarrassed you in front of your coworkers for no good reason, and you're walking home venting to a friend about it. If your friend says there is no reason to be upset, you're probably just tired. Smile. How does that land? Pretty bad, right? Now, imagine your friend instead says, wow, that sounds really rough. Getting yelled at like that in front of everyone must have been so hard to deal with. Completely different feeling, right? Your kid needs the exact same thing from you. Not a phone in your hand, not a half response while you're doing dishes. Your kid needs actual full attention. Number 3. Acknowledge feelings with a small word instead of jumping straight to advice. There is a great story about a dad whose son storms into the house yelling, I want to punch Michael in the nose. Normally, the dad's instinct would be to ask a bunch of questions or immediately start defending the other kid. But this time, having just learned the skill, he simply said, oh, you're really angry? That's it. And his son kept talking. Explained the whole situation, how the other boy grabbed his notebook and threw it in the dirt. How he thought it was because the other boy blamed him for something he didn't even do. By the end of the conversation, his son came up with his own solution completely on his own. The dad never once gave advice. So instead of jumping to, well, what did you do? Or launching into a lecture, just respond with something small like, oh, or I see, and let them keep going. Number 4. Name the feeling instead of just trying to fix it. A lot of times kids don't have the words for what they're feeling, and when you name it for them, it actually calms them down almost instantly. Instead of saying, stop crying, it's not that big of a deal, you say, that sounds really frustrating. The book explains that when a kid hears the actual word for what they're going through, they feel deeply understood even if you don't say another single word after that. This alone can stop a meltdown before it even fully gets going. Number 5. Describe what you see instead of blaming or yelling. This might be the single most useful tool in the entire book. Instead of yelling, how many times have I told you to put your wet towel away? You just say calmly, There is a wet towel on the bed. No blame attached, just stating a fact. Kids respond so much better to this because it doesn't put them on a defensive right away. There's a great story of a mom who walked in and found her two boys covered head to toe in a green paint right before dinner. Instead of screaming, she just said, I see two boys with green paint on their hands and faces. They immediately ran off to clean themselves up. No fight, no argument at all. Number 6. Give information instead of giving orders. Instead of saying, put your coat on right now, you say, it's freezing outside. Kids respond so much better to information than they do to commands because it feels like you're trusting them to figure it out on their own instead of controlling every single move they make. There is a story of a girl who kept arguing with her mom about wearing her brownie uniform while playing outside in the garden. The mom kept saying, you will ruin it, and the girl kept saying, why? The second the mom simply said, slacks are for playing in the garden, uniforms are for meetings. The girl walked inside and changed without even a single word of protest. Number 7. Say it one word instead of a whole lecture. This sounds too simple to actually work, but it really does. Instead of giving a whole speech about the dog needing to be walked, you just say the dog. One single word forces your kid to actually think it through themselves instead of tuning out another lecture they have heard 100 times. Teenagers in the book specifically said they preferred this. Hearing one word like dishes or homework instead of a long drawn out explanation that just makes them want to stop listening. Now, here is where it gets really important because these last three things are the ones that completely change the entire relationship, not just a single conversation. Number 8. Stop punishing and use problem solving instead. This might be the biggest idea in the whole book. At one point, the author actually sat down and directly asked her mentor, a well known child psychologist, if punishment was ever really okay. And his answer surprised her. He said punishment doesn't actually work because instead of feeling sorry and thinking about how to fix what they did wrong, kids get completely distracted thinking about how unfair you're being and how are they going to get back at you later. There's a powerful story in the book about a kid named Bobby who kept coming home late from the park every single day. His mom tried yelling and punishing him hard, which just made him resentful and defiant. Then she tried being too soft and letting it slide, which just taught him he could get away with it. What actually worked in the end was sitting down together and problem solving. Talking about his feelings first, talking about her feelings next, writing down every single idea they could think of, no matter how silly, and then picking a solution together. Bobby ended up suggesting things himself, like finally getting his broken watch fixed so he could actually track time while he played. And because he helped create the plan, he actually followed through with it, something that had never happened with punishment. Number 9. Stop labeling your kid, even inside your own head. This one might hit you the hardest out of everything on this list. There's a story about the author's own son, and honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking if you really think about it. When he was born, a nurse casually said, he is a stubborn one, simply because he took a few extra seconds to start crying after birth. That single comment stuck with her for years without her even realizing it. Every single time her son refused a new food, or wouldn't wear a sweater, or didn't want to get on the school bus, that same thought popped into her head. Yup, stubborn. Years later, a scout leader pulled her aside and told her flat out that her son wouldn't follow instructions and was constantly causing friction with the other boys in the group. Instead of just accepting that label as final truth who he was, she made a decision. She was going to actively look for the moments where her son showed flexibility and point them out to him out loud so he could hear a completely different story about who he actually was. Years later, as a grown adult, during an argument, she accidentally called him pig-headed. He paused, looked at her, and asked, is that how you see me? She stammered, embarrassed by what had just slipped out, and he said calmly, that's okay, Mom, thanks to you. I have another opinion of myself. That single line is basically the entire heart of this whole book. The way you talk about your kids slowly becomes the way they talk about themselves. Number 10. Use descriptive praise instead of generic praise. This last one genuinely surprised me the most because you would assume more praise is always a good thing. But saying good job or you're so smart constantly can actually backfire because it's vague. And honestly, it puts a lot of pressure on a kid to keep living up to it. Instead, the book teaches something called the descriptive praise, where you simply describe exactly what you see and let your kid draw their own conclusion from it. Instead of saying, "You are such a good artist," you say, "I see you used blue for the sky and green for the grass, and you even added tiny little details on the flowers." And more often than not, the kid will respond on their own with something like, "I am actually a pretty good artist." When kids come to that conclusion themselves, instead of being told it directly, it sticks so much deeper inside them. So, that's all 10. Stop denying feelings. Listen with your full attention. Acknowledge with small words. Name the feeling out loud. Describe instead of blame. Give information instead of orders. Say it in one word. Replace punishment with problem solving. Stop labeling your kid, even quietly in your own mind. And use descriptive praise instead of generic praise. None of this require you to somehow become a perfect parent overnight. You're going to mess up sometimes. You're going to snap when you're tired or stressed, and honestly, that's completely normal. Even the authors of this book admit they messed up plenty of times raising their own kids. The whole point was never about being perfect parent. It's about slowly building a relationship where your kid actually feels safe telling you the truth and genuinely trust that you are on their side, not against them. If this helped you, subscribe because I'm breaking down more books just like this one.